Yeah, Fog of War is auto set to go on. So you guys were kind of like sitting at the A of Napperi Street, kind of like overlooking the street to the north, heading between Napperi and Cord Street, uh, where you were basically shown that at some point here, a few ogres would come by with this rather ornate kind of like arc slash chest between them. They would head towards a silver shop, the Silver Cup, at the end of that road, like between, like at the corner of Cord. And you basically watch as these orcs came, and without much kind of hesitation, Neferndel sort of followed slash led you guys with kind of like acceptance. She led you forward and basically walked right into the silver shop and sort of demanded the chest, of which the orcs were obliged. And as they threw the chest at all of you guys, combat was had, and we're going to pick up shortly at the end of that combat. After a little bit of chaos ensued, you guys basically are heading out of the silver shop with this chest in hand. Essentially, two of you sharing the load. I don't think we've really established who it is. We can do that now. But as you guys stepped out of the silver shop, down towards the end of the row, you would hear from four guards as they yell for you to halt. And we're going to pick up there with what you guys decide is the proper response to guards, as you guys kind of loot this chest. But you don't know. Do they know that you stole it? Do you want to sell the idea that somebody stole it from you? It's up to you guys how you guys treat this kind of experience as you step out of the silver shop and you're hailed by guards. I should make sure to bring up that there was certainly a point where you guys were fighting and one of the ogres ran out. You guys fought a little bit more on the street and then got everybody back in for most of the killing. So most of your fighting was contained within the shop, but not necessarily all of it. So let's say the guards are kind of there, and I'm just gonna grab one of you guys.
And I would like to volunteer, as far as the chest is concerned, to not be a carrier of the chest.
Yeah, I was going to say, given Jinx's state of mind, probably makes more sense for maybe kind of Malchin and Dalton to be carrying it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Goblin Good Good.
So yeah, I think maybe even have them a little bit closer. But again, I think it's safe for you guys to say you are between 50 and 70 feet from these guards as they holler at you. It is the four of you with the chest. Yeah, Jinx is also. I don't know how much the other guys actually know about the hallucinatory cigarette that you took from the goblins, or if they even have a reason to understand that you healing ogres in the middle of that brawl was the drugs and not just Jinx being a crazy bastard.
Yeah, so I think Dalton, seeing the guards, have seen them and are on their way, he's going to kind of like turn back towards Jinx and just be like, "Let us do the talking," because he's not sure what's going on, but seems to be um, even more impulsive, let's say, than his usual self. Um, but he is going to kind of, as the guards are coming, Dalton's going to kind of like he's going to move to set the chest down kind of at his feet and kind of like turning back towards the guard, um, like with a trying to like putting a relieved kind of expression on his face, is going to shout out, "Oh, thank Ash you're here. These ogres tried to rob us." And kind of wait for them to continue approaching. He's not going to move towards the guards at this point. Just kind of like calling out, probably hands waved.
Gotcha. How's everybody else feeling about this immediate, like, wait for the guards thought? Is everybody following this?
Yeah, I think Martian will follow that at least, and like not sheath his weapon exactly, but like put him down so he's not like in a ready position. Shows more relaxed.
I think Jinx would like whisper to them. It hits the fan now. We should decide now. Are we fighting or running?
Neferndell's just gonna kind of like look over the blood over all of us, like, we've been fighting. Shouldn't we be running?
Think without running them, lugging that thing around.
So, do you guys want to roll to deceive these guards as they approach, and your own sort of understanding of what's been happening going on, or are you looking to try to kind of be persuasive and try to basically tell them a story that puts you as victims? Like, how are you going to approach this? And let me get the rolls from you guys when you are ready, because I want this to be a group decision and a group roll. So if we're looking for persuasion, that's one thing that you can kind of go for, or deception is another. But I want you guys to kind of tell me the narrative you're looking to weave.
Yeah. So Dalton's thought is to essentially kind of tell a story that essentially switches places. Like we were, carrying, transporting this chest, and the ogres, came upon us and tried to rob us. Um, so it would be, I would think, deception. That's kind of his idea.
Sound good to everybody?
And he's thinking like, I mean, and he'll like, as part of this, like, given the ogres were like smashing up like some of the walls inside, right? So kind of you could even like play that in, like, look at the damage they caused, and all that sort of stuff. Trying to break into the vault, and you know,
Yeah, I think Martian will be in on that and even like point out that I mean we didn't even try to hurt them too much. Our friend here healed them just so that we didn't get like so we wouldn't accidentally kill them in the middle of the fight. Pointing at Jinx.
Yeah, I mean it's a rather complicated situation. It was all chess, and then they had took it from us, and then we took it back. So, I mean,
All right, let me get a deception roll from y'all.
can I use my inspiration on this one?
Most certainly.
Yeah, I am also gonna use my inspiration on this one. I need it.
Jinx, want to take yours with advantage?
nah, I'm gonna roll the dice.
And then, just remind me, if I have expertise, does that mean should I roll 2d6 as the proficiency die?
I think you just have the second one, basically. But yes.
Yeah, it just feels too easy.
Yeah, that's a 9 total from Malshin.
All right, so that should be a I
Jinx is 26.
think that would be an 18 for Dalton.
So yeah, as you guys kind of like are just kind of holding there and waiting for these guards to kind of like clear the distance. I think the first thing that you heard was essentially something just kind of like shouting for you. Um, and then I think after they kind of cover maybe like half the distance, you'll hear them just kind of like exclaiming something to the effect of like, we heard a commotion from down the way. Is everything in? And that's when you kind of will notice like they're seeing the blood on you. Is everything in order? Is everyone alive? Uh,
Well, the ogres I don't think they made it. We were trying to get away without too much, but they just kept coming at us. We had to defend ourselves, of course.
And you, I think they're going to basically kind of like going down from one to the next of you. They're just going to start with grabbing some names from you guys. And just kind of like looking over your actual Imperial papers. But starting with something to the effect of, and you are, what business do you have that's these ogres? And you see as like one of the guys like points to the other to like look inside of the silver cup. What is happened that the ogres did this? What were you doing? So I think the big thing is you guys are, telling this story as if it is you. Where are you taking this? Where are you going to? And where are you coming from? Are you currently at your destination? Are you heading towards your destination?
How many guards are there total right now?
Four of them.
I mean, I think Jinx's main thing would be to definitely like give fake names, not any like identification, and he's definitely still thinking like, get the hell out of here.
Do you have your firearm on you?
Yeah, I would have it on me, I guess.
So you just got your paperwork to acquire that. I think you would have a pretty solid understanding that if you go for effectively being a non-citizen where you wouldn't show your papers, you would then be walking yourself into a corner where having a firearm is part of another charge. So I definitely think you should keep that in mind, that you guys are already in a situation where basically it's one or the other is going to cause a problem here.
Yeah, I think Dalton still, thinking it's, we're already we've already picked our, we're trying to tell this story and it's going to look, suspicious if we don't kind of comply. Dalton will hand over his, or will go to kind of get his papers for the guards. He might also drop the name of Sergeant or Captain. Oh no, that was Davros, I think, that knew him. Never mind. But Dalton will hand over his papers when the guards ask for them. And as to your questions, they must have followed us. Picked it up from over. I think Neferndel had told us kind of the route, the smokestack.
Yeah. So effectively we had it kind of going with the idea that Neferndel knew that they would arrive at this location of the Silver Cup by Cord Street and Napperley. That Napperley was kind of one of the last roads that they kind of walked on. I think I might have had them come from the other direction, but I think this would make the most sense that they kind of round that corner as one of the final things that they did. And then down on Morning Dove Street, this circular building is where they leave from. But while she knows the time that they arrive on Cord Street, she didn't actually know what time they left Morning Dove Street and the Tobacconist. But effectively, they do this route from the Tobacconist to the Cord Street and arrive there 7 p.m. on Sunday. I think, as far as things go, that corner was the biggest thing that I wanted to change because I kind of made it clear that I didn't actually know how they would truly walk there. That made the most sense.
I have to say I'm a bit flustered by all this. We were just hired as couriers. Wasn't expecting all this, and I'll kind of point back towards the kind of the mess inside.
And you were picking up here from the Silver Cup? That's kind of where I'm still asking you guys. I'm like, I want to know, like, do you all agree that you're all giving your real names, or are you all trying to give fake information? Where are you giving as your pickup point? Where are you giving as your exit point? You guys can have a little bit more leeway to actually like talk about this, but in the long run, I want you guys to make some decisions here because you already stopped for them. You already got rid of any like sense of like running because you just stopped. So now you're gonna get interrogated by cops. What are you guys kind of answering? They still have you effectively in the same spot. You're not like isolated and like pulled off the street or anything.
I definitely think this is a terrible plan. I have no interest in giving my actual real name or anything to the police.
I think Martian would also agree with not giving real names, but I think he would still go with the plan of trying to deceive them. So I think he has like an idea as well. Like maybe we didn't like this isn't our end spot. It's just like they ambushed us and the fight spilled into that shop, so it has nothing to do with what we're doing here. Actually,
All right, let
Yeah.
me get a dexterity check from both of the bards.
19.
11.
Gotcha. So what I'm going to go for on that one is Dalton is already giving his real information by the time you notice what he's doing, Jinx. So if you're going to give different information, you're going to be giving it like with the recognition that he's already given real information. And yeah, that's kind of, guys have to like make a decision like what this next move is going to be. If they have real information, you kind of have to roll with that. If you're about to tell them you were just interrupted on the way here, they're still asking you for where did you start from and where are you going. So what do you have in mind that Malchin is going to say? Where did you start from? What is your destination?
I think Martian, at least not knowing the area too well, is gonna like say we started from the tavern where we were in.
Gotcha. So right down the street.
Yeah.
You guys pick this up. So he just kind of like looks down the street and he like looks at the chest and he's gonna say, you all picked up this chest at the, can't remember specifically what I called it, but at the Filthy Hog at 7-ish on a Sunday. Where did the ogres come from?
Not sure we can answer that. We were focused on our tasks. I think they.
Where did you see the ogres first? Then, if your task is to deliver a chest, surely you pay attention to your surroundings. You've only just left the pub. Did you look around the streets at all as you walk these? And he like looks back towards the pub. 200 feet. Another kind of looks towards you all and says, do you all always head towards Cord Street before heading towards Ripe Road? Where is your destination? You've still not told us that. So at this point, they're starting to separate you guys into like there is one guard talking to each of you guys. They're going to start isolating you now. All right. I feel like you guys are just getting a little more and more closed off with this. I don't really want to go through a complicated like interrogation if you guys aren't into it. Let me just have you roll D100s, and I'm just going to sum up this entire thing off of D100s.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like okay, so like Jinx and Malshin didn't really like my plan, but you know, I don't want to then speak for the whole party the whole time. So
Yeah, regardless though, getting into situations like that are not the time to be extra silent. You have to be decisive regardless.
45 for me.
89 for Malston.
19.
Yeah. I think overall I rolled a 19 with Nefrindel too. That's crazy. I think overall you guys kind of interact with these cops on a little bit of like positive kind of race card here, as the ogres are easily kind of villainized in at least the sense of like street justice, and kind of recognizing like the like delvers like memberships, effectively like as you're kind of pulling out your paperwork, you guys also have like your delvers paperwork kind of tied up in here, and basically you kind of skate through things, kind of relying on this idea that, you know, if they need you for more information, they can call you in. It does kind of get to a point where, like Dalton and Malchin are perhaps like handing forward their actual paperwork. And Jinx kind of tends to kind of like slink back onto this sort of like riding his like legal rights kind of thing. Certainly not like riding like perfectly happily with these street guards, but they kind of recognize like his paperwork is there. He's not necessarily showing it under the idea that they don't have the right to look at it, but they can see that he has the firearm paperwork just as much as his citizenship paperwork, and that the seals are in order. And again, it's more like you're showing the seals, not the actual like fine print of the paperwork, and sort of kind of pushing this idea that, look, you want to talk to us and actually charge us with something, you know where we live, come and get us. Otherwise, we have work to do, and you guys kind of head on their way. Um, Having them take it to a roll off, Malchin, you're going to get fined 300 gold crowns for having false paperwork. And if you don't pay the fine and get your paperwork legalized in the next month, you are going to be imprisoned for 5 years for being inside of um, the Empire illegally. But again, it's a fine for 300 gold for having false paperwork. And I think that's
Right, but didn't I get my paperwork legalized when I joined like the library in the Delvers, like Delvers library thing? Am I
Did we ever actually have it be legalized, or I feel like they just kind of fixed some of the more glaring things, like say somebody with a name of one sort being the name that you bought like the ID from. I don't think you ever actually got like legal paperwork.
Oh right, yeah, no, it's just like they fixed it so it actually fit me more.
Yeah, like it wasn't a glaringly say like gnomish name while you're clearly a Triton.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay, yeah, 300.
Yeah, and as far as things go, I feel like that's a solid way to kind of see how things could have gone, even though as far as what I would expect, that was the exact opposite of anything that I expect you're gonna do right after you steal some shit and kill some people inside the city. Is to stop and talk to the cops. But yeah, we'll kind of like pick up. Effectively, you guys kind of get waved on. You've given up your information. You know that you basically have to have your day in court, Malchin. But otherwise, you guys kind of like walk away from what otherwise could be a pretty horrendous situation. What kind of thoughts do you have as you are heading away?
Yeah, sorry. I thought I was under the impression they'd already gotten like close enough to like see who we were. Like, you know, that's why I didn't think running was really an option.
I mean, overall, everything started off with you guys about like 60 or 100 feet away from them. So that certainly is close enough to see a lot of details. But again, it's totally up to you guys, like how you make choices. So that was still part of what was meant to be not an easy choice. But I think that's about the distance you would have started from.
Gotcha. So once we're kind of done being questioned, are they kind of like continuing to watch us? Did they confiscate the chest? Did they kind of move on after kind of
Oh,
delivering the
you guys are
fine?
sent on with the chest right now. You guys were successful enough to convince them that like your charge was to deliver this chest. So you're like sent on your way.
Gotcha. So I guess Dalton's suggestion would be, at least just for a little, like whatever destination we gave them or whatever route we gave them, um, kind of, at least pretend to follow that for a little bit, and then, um,
Yeah, effectively I'm saying you guys didn't seem to be into that encounter. We're moved past it. So assume that you guys, followed the course on your way to your um glee and then are now heading back to wherever you would like to head. Like, do you guys have thoughts on how you kind of approach the situation after that moment?
Jinx would definitely let Malchin know that he'll help him get some gold together. I wish I could offer you a little something right now, but I had a kind of a rough week between the purchase of a firearm and my gambling. Well, they call me Jinx for a reason, but I'd probably get you a little bit of scratch and help you out with that, my man.
I appreciate that, but don't have to worry. I can pay the fine. It's a lot of gold, but I can manage it.
Now, I insist, take it out of my share of the keep there. Call it a cost of doing business.
I won't say no to that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know you guys would do the same for me. Made my share of mistakes in the past and cost us all some gold. So least I could do is help you out when it hits. So where we headed? Gonna have to figure out what's in this chest anyway. Hopefully it's worth something, Nephrindale.
The outside is worth plenty. I mean, you can see that by how ornate everything is. And there's definitely something worth stealing inside. It's going to be a lot of money in there.
There's gonna be something in here. Let's hope it's as valuable to us as it is to whoever we just stole it from.
Yeah, hopefully it isn't valuable enough to hunt us down for it, though.
Yeah, we want that comfortable gray area in the middle. So should we hit the Goblin House and see what's going on, or should we try to trail off somewhere different, unload our bounty away from the house?
from South Market to North Market, we'd have to go through Midtown as well, right? And the or at the Temple District. Yeah.
Yeah, effectively, you'll almost always have to go through Midtown for a lot of things, but yeah, you're basically looking like you could sneak through a pretty small sliver of the Temple District to go through south. But yeah, I guess really you're still cutting through Midtown too. Um, but yeah, effectively you're looking through walking a good chunk of the entire city versus probably the closest place that you guys would have is the DeMarquis house in the Guildsman district, as that is near the Guildsman Gate. I think in like the southeast portion.
Well, it is a rather nice chest. I'm just the longer we're carrying it through the city, worse the risk that gets stopped, questioned again, or somebody recognizes it. So, we're not that far from my parents' house. To try and get there and see what we've got.
I mean, if we're worried about being followed, whatever, I think probably a locate object would find that chest just as easily. But if we're worried about someone physically seeing us, I could make the bearers of the chest invisible for about 10 minutes or so. Anything they're carrying. So I could do it to two of y'all.
Is it carrying or wearing?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it said both. Hang on, I'll check. Might be suspicious if there was just like a giant, like valuable chest, just like waist height going down the boulevard.
It is wearing or carrying, so yeah, you've got a pretty solid sense. Like you could make it invisible, and like Neferndell's like pulling out a tarpaulin to like throw it over as she looks at you, like make it invisible.
Yeah, so I could do that at third level, and that gives me two people. So I'll just do the two chest carriers.
And that's for an hour, right? If we don't do something to break it.
Oh, yeah, it is an hour. I was thinking 10 minutes. Yeah, it is an hour. And I actually have two third level slots, so I could do up to 2 hours, two people at a time.
In that case, perhaps the best 2 hours. You should be able to make it to the North Market, I would hope, when we don't run into any more trouble. Back to the Goblin House.
All
Let
right,
me
so I marked that.
have you guys roll d10s. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I don't want any of those to count. Right now, Malchin and somebody else is carrying the chest. I assume that's Dalton because you said it would not be Jinx because he was currently tripping.
Yeah, I think we decided Dalton and Malchin made sense.
Gotcha. So Jinx and Neferndell are walking down the street. Jinx, let me have you roll. The other two are still there, and funny shit could happen to the other two. So we're gonna go for scratching all of that, and I'm going to force you all to roll. Let me get a D12 from Jinx and D8s from the two invisible people.
Do you want me to roll for Neffy too?
No, that was part of why I just kind of rolled hers in with you. I was
that
gonna
three-
have you two roll D20s.
Is that 3 4s?
Yeah.
It is 3 4s. That's pretty good. Yeah, so overall, you guys kind of have a pretty smooth ride through the city. As you kind of like head along these roads. A good portion of like the Temple District is already kind of like shutting down for the night. Like there's probably like Sunday night services and whatnot, but a lot of those are already kind of like over and kind of done with. A lot of the priests are like in for the night in like nightly kind of like vigils rather than like calling for big public presence, and that gives you guys kind of like a sneak through down. I don't think that's specifically the road of 1,000 gods, but there is a big kind of like road that allows you to like cross the north side of the temple district, where like the North Market one is like that one straight across the like border of the temple district, and the North Market has that big road that allows you guys the space to like cross like much of that walk, while you have these invisible people carrying this huge like beer kind of between them. You guys basically like wander through the city, and it's almost like playing Frogger, how you and Neferndel kind of are like almost like pushing each other, like almost like drunkenly kind of like falling into things to kind of like make up this idea, because the invisible people, other people are going to be walking in those spaces if you guys don't basically accost them by kind of like falling into them and like exhaling this like horrendous beer breath into them to kind of like shock them out of. And what you basically prevent is them like stubbing their toe kind of situation where you're just like walking and at your most weak point bump into something that is horrendously sharp and hard. And basically like you guys have a kind of a moment of comedic relief after this little bit of a experience with the ogres and with the city guards afterwards, but can make it back to the goblin house late in the evening. It does certainly take you quite a bit of time. The chest is supremely heavy and probably basically puts you guys at about your slowest kind of movement pace, where you're really just kind of like crawling through the city, and probably vastly stretch. I mean, what it's got to be basically like half pace for you guys to get back there just about when you lose your invisibility. Um, After following your way to that destination that you would have given the guards. But you guys have it back to the you have it back to the actual goblin safe house, as the others are like coming back to visibility. Um, kind of thoughts do you have here?
Thinking maybe we should maybe bring it down into the basement and then see if we can get it opened.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if it's not trapped, it probably wasn't even worth stealing.
Well, perhaps they were intending to put some sort of protection on it once it was in the vault. I imagine the risk of ogres inadvertently tripping it might have been something they wanted to avoid. Perhaps we got lucky, but probably best to give it a once over just in case.
Mountain, what if we get y'all hyped up and talk about how good you are at picking locks and then send you in there? Think you could give it a shot?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly ready to try. See what that gets me.
So yeah, I'll either like assist Malchin however he can. I could like wipe the sweat off his forehead as he's like going to town on this lock or whatever. But I'm definitely gonna give him bardic inspiration.
Gotcha.
Oh, and before we get too hasty and jump right in here on this thing, just in case it is trapped, should we like rest up a little bit first? Do some healing. I mean, something.
I mean, if we think it's trapped, we could just look it over to see if we find any traps.
I'm rather curious, given all we just went through. Sure, I can wait an hour. Perhaps we just give Melchin some space while he.
All right. Well, I'm gonna do a cure wounds for anybody that needs it.
I mean, I could take it.
Dalton looks like he's in decent shape, so he's all right.
Okay, so I'm gonna do yeah. How rough are you, Malchin? Are you like pretty bad, or are you just like kind of need topped up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like maybe a bit of cuts and bruises, but nothing too bad.
All right, so you'll get 12 from cure wounds, and I'll get 9.
Cool. So, am I opening the chest now?
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Think you can do it, buddy? I've seen you pick locks that are worse.
Real inspiring.
Sorry, I'm kind of coming down off that goblin juice.
Let's see. I don't have proficiency in it yet, right? So it's just a D20 roll. With is it with my dexterity or?
It is indeed a dexterity check. Currently without proficiency.
And I had bardic inspiration. That's D6,
D8 now.
D8, right? Yeah, that's a 12 total.
That includes the D8.
Yeah, that includes the D8. 6 and a 2.
I'm like dabbing the sweat off your forehead. You're like, I can't see. You're in the way.
So as you're kind of like taking out your lockpicks, like the first thing that you're doing is you're taking just like a little slide bar and kind of moving it inside of the lock, and you're just looking to put a little bit of rotary pressure on the actual lock so you can kind of like set pressure against the pins. And then you take out a little hooked barb and you use this to kind of like feel in for where the pins are. And for each pin, you want to feel like a little bit of pressure so you can find like where you're trying to like turn it to, so you can keep trying to roll that pin in and see like how you can get the pressure just right. Would you spend a few minutes trying and failing to find any pins? You can't even feel the slightest bit of pressure inside of this lock. This lock is beyond you.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, I really don't know what to do with this kind of lock. Don't think I'm gonna get it open.
Suppose we could try to force it. Looks pretty sturdy, but you're not able to finesse it. Don't see much other option.
Oh, but couldn't we ask? Sorry, what's her name? The row. in the Goblin House?
I know at least Zeneth has been one of the rogues that you guys have played with the longest. You would be perfectly welcome to name Bill, Bob, or Tom, one of the three lizard folk, as a rogue if you wanted to, and I'm sure you could find a goblin who is a rogue as well,
Yeah,
as well as Seamus.
I was thinking about Annette. Like we could ask her, or we could like probably pay Seamus to do it if we could.
Who are you going to first, Zeneth or Seamus?
I mean, if Seamus finds out that you didn't bring it to him, you're never going to hear the end of it. You might as well just go straight to him. He's going to hear about it anyway, and it's not like we're shy about cutting him in, no? Isn't Seamus the one you're like training with to become like rogue?
And he introduced me to the like thieves guild basically, and I trained there when I paid. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of a point of pride as well. You just don't really want to bring up failures to the ones teaching me.
That's understandable. Annette, then.
Yeah, let's start there at least. If she can't, then we'll get Seamus.
Gotcha. So you can basically go looking for Zeneth. Basically find out that she's not there. Kalimtas is in touch with her. She should be returning shortly. If you guys basically hang out for a little bit, she'll be back. Otherwise, one of the goblins, Screech, is a rogue and could try to pick the lock for you. Basically, that's coming from Kalimtas. If you're not patient enough to wait for Zeneth, I do believe Screech is down there in the basement. He's probably sleeping underneath his blue-black cloak. I'm sure you could ask him for a little bit of help.
Well, if we've got someone around who might be able to get in, don't see why not.
So you guys can like go like like further into the basement, like they kind of sleep behind like one of their false walls around like the actual like corner of the traditional basement into the area where part of the brickwork is like kind of taken out. That's where most of the goblins tend to sleep. You go inside of there, you find the one with like that blackish blue cloak. Wake him up. Recognize Screech is one of the goblins you guys have probably dealt with the most here. He is one of the bigger goblins, and their size tends to kind of give them a little bit more power and like force over one another. This is one of the goblins you've treated with the most here, as far as things go. And he kind of like comes out with you guys, rubs his eyes a little bit, and like as he like looks over this whole chest, he's just like in awe. And that's some pretty crazy big shinies you guys got there. And he like looks at like one of the like decorative pieces on it, and he's just like kind of like eyes it for a second. Let me knock that off. I'll take a look at the lock for you. And he's basically saying like, let me break a chunk of that silver off, and I will get the lock for you.
If you can get it open, I think that's only fair.
So he's gonna pull out a knife and start to like hack at it right now.
Well, you need to open it first, Screech.
he's like feet on this thing, like putting pressure on it as he's like pulling this like horse's head back so he can like start chopping the silver. And then he like looks back at you and says, I mean, I could just chop it off right now. I'm already here.
How about this? If you get it open, I'll help you with it. So it's a bit easier for you to get it off.
All right, all right. So he'll go back around and start to actually look at the lock here. You'll see him doing pretty similar things as Malchin does. And Malchin, let me have you roll let me have you roll Arcana. Does anybody have lock picking as a proficiency? Or not lock picking, the tool set. I don't think any of you do.
Dalton doesn't.
Let's see. Was Arcana right?
Yeah, Arcana was what I was looking for.
Yeah, then that's a 17.
Gotcha. So he like kind of like is conferring with you about what you said, and you're seeing him kind of like going through some of the same things. And you guys have like a little bit of like a conversation, and this is one of the first times, Malchin, where you're starting to understand the way that he's talking about the lock and like the inside, the different mechanisms, again, those like rods and the actual pressure. And you guys are basically coming to the conclusion like, there's nothing physically locked about this. And like the two of you kind of look towards the other ones. This is locked with magic. I've heard of different keys or different spells that you can use that can unlock things like this. But there's and just kind of like holding up his picks. There's nothing these can do.
That actually makes sense. Well, Melton, I suppose it means you didn't fail, nor you, Screech. But I think knowing that is worth something, and Dalton will kind of look to Malchin and Jinx and to the kind of silver embellishment that Screech just started hacking off. I think perhaps he's earned a reward for helping us figure that much out, at least.
If this chest is magically locked, we don't really know what's in it. Somebody could come looking for it. So perhaps we should keep it all in one piece and get it out of our house.
You're not wrong. And Screech kind of like puts his knife up towards like the kind of like breach in the chest, like between it, and he just kind of like pops his hand down on the knife, and like bends the blade, snapping off a little bit of the tip, and like the tip like actually like shoots out of the chest. The magic's gonna extend beyond just keeping it shut. The chest itself is part of the magic now.
Well, it's not much, but I think you at least earned this. And I'll reach down into my like purse and I'll pull it out and I'll dump out 8 coins into my hand, and I'll give Screech my 1 gold.
What do you have? Like, what are those 8 coins when you hand him 1 gold piece?
Oh, I have 1 gold and 7 silver.
He looks at you and roll a perception check for me. I rolled high as fuck.
17.
Yeah, you just kind of hear him like mutter something under his breath. You don't quite pick up what he says.
And you good with that? 1 gold for 5 minutes work? That seems fair enough. I mean, I could give you a silver or two if you prefer.
Are we negotiating?
Of course. Aren't we always?
I'll take 2 silver.
Yeah, all right. I'll do that. 2 silver and 1 gold. We've got a deal.
Same time. And he like goes to hand you the gold piece.
All right, I'll take the gold back.
He snaps at the 2 silver pieces.
I don't think you understand how this works. And then I'm going to reach out to give him back the gold. Take them all.
Deal's a deal.
All right, but you owe me next time then.
I don't think you know how this works.
All right, so I'll just put the other 5 silver and the gold back in my bag and put them up.
So I just want to confirm, Mountain, you don't actually have a modifier plus or minus for your Arcana check. That was a straight 17.
Yeah, that was a straight 17.
All right, that's what I thought.
Jinx, you might be onto something. Perhaps it would be best if we didn't keep this thing right here, just in case someone has a way to come find it. Could try to find some place in the underground to stash it away.
I don't think you guys have officially explored any further than this in the actual underground here. But the goblin house is essentially this staircase over here.
Yeah, no, we'd kind of found the entrance into the underground, but we haven't explored very much. We tried once or twice, but we didn't get too far. I don't think. But Dalton's thinking maybe if we could kind of find some place down there to stash it, it's still nearby, but it's not, in the house itself.
So do we have like knowledge of like an unlock type spell or something along those lines, like dispel magic or something like that, even though we are like lower levels?
Usually I would say if you have the ability to cast a spell, even if you don't actually have it. So it's like on that meta knowledge of like what could a bard choose from? And that includes eventually the idea that you get to choose like any spells. I think there is a solid reason for you to argue, like there's a reason for me to know of the existence of like counterspell because you've heard of people using such spells. So to like again, I think bards have access to things like knock, so I think you would have a understanding of its existence once you could cast it, which I think you guys can. And then the other caveat is I'm always open to your next level of spells counts as well. Like if you level up to level 6, whatever spells you would have access to as a potential choice, you would know about now. And that's usually how I would play it. So for a bard, you have the unique opportunity of if you have a solid in-character reason to know about like a druid spell that might be effective, you could know about that spell. But that should be a part of your character as far as the magical secrets goes. My bad. Did that answer your question? Did you have any other thoughts, like where that was going?
Oh yeah, that definitely answered it. Sorry, I'm just reading spells now because there's a gazillion of them. I think that there was one that was along those lines, though.
Yeah, I think knock can. I think it works differently for like magical locks, but I think it could if, work. And then bards also bards would also have dispel magic. Um, I don't know if we know how exactly it would work because we don't know what kind of magic is on this chest, but something that to consider, I would think.
Okay, so knock basically for 10 minutes, it like basically like shuts down arcane lock.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. And the other thing is, or perhaps there's some sort of key or something that could bypass. So I don't think we likely to find it.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's probably held shut with some kind of magical lock. So either a dispel magic scroll or possibly somebody with knock would be our best opportunity. I mean, ideally, we don't want to show a bunch of people that we have this thing. It's pretty recognizable, and somebody's going to be looking for it. So, um, how much would it cost to get a scroll?
Is knock first or third level? I feel like it's one of those two, but
Knock is second level.
so I think you would be looking at approximately 1,000 gold for knock as a scroll. I might be
It
wrong,
would be-
but it tends to be pretty expensive to get spell scrolls, simply because it is like effectively recognized. Like with a scroll, that magic is like shared, perhaps forever. Um, wizards recognize that like selling a scroll is the type of thing that a wizard could then learn that spell forever.
And what about if we just like paid somebody to do it for us? How much would that cost?
I think that tends to be a little bit cheaper. Maybe like probably like say something like half that kind of thing. Um, so you might be looking at like 500 gold.
So it's quite the gamble. We're up in territories where you have to assume that if somebody would protect a chest like this, that got to be valuable. But is it worth 100 gold? I'm sorry, 1,000 gold for us to get inside, knowing that whatever's in there probably not going to be able to get top dollar for it either.
Yes, it's almost as if some kind of mystery box. But yeah, do you think perhaps our first order of business should be to find some place to stash it till we can figure out what we want to do to get it open?
I would imagine that there's a good possibility that whoever's box this is, they're powerful enough or rich enough that they're going to be able to find this thing no matter where we put it.
Well, if that's the case, shouldn't we put it somewhere where it's not directly tied to us?
I mean, sure, but don't you just think they're going to just come and take it and then we're SOL?
Roll an intelligence for me, Dalton.
Did Neffy have like any details about who this belonged to or anything, or was it literally just like she saw some people with something that looked expensive?
Roll an investigation for me.
That's a 3 on the intelligence roll.
Gotcha. Did you just roll a 1 for your investigation, Jinx?
Oh yeah, sweet sweet one.
So you can gain inspiration here. Uh, I just kind of overheard about it from some people who seem to be dressed in nice clothing walking through the Delver Square. I didn't really get much more than what I told you guys, and we acted on it. So they looked well dressed.
One other thing to keep in mind, if we hire someone to cast the spell for us, it's one more person who knows we have it.
Yeah, you definitely paying a premium for the scroll for your well, discretion.
What do you think, Melchin?
I don't know. I'll leave the magic to you guys, but there is a way for someone to find this. I really don't feel comfortable having it anywhere close to us.
What do you think of like finding some place to stash it underground, at least until we can figure out how to get it open?
Underground seems good. Not misremembering too much. There is that underground lake. We might be able to throw it in there. We had some way to tie it up to get it back to get up, back up later.
Are you thinking inside of the Ratman place in the sewers? Is that what you're thinking there?
And I was thinking like we have the underground under the Goblin House, and there was like the underground lake in that area that we saw.
Okay, my bad. Yeah, at the Goblin House.
So yeah, that's where I was thinking like throw it down there in the water, hopefully like tie it up a bit, have it slam down a pole so we can get it up later.
Suppose that could work, but how do we would we leave traces that there's something in the water if we tried to secure it? Do we know how deep that lake is?
I guess not. I mean, have any other idea?
Well, that trying to remember if it was Davros or Dalton who actually went into the kind of the Ratmen lair, but assuming if it was Davros, he would have kind of told Dalton about it. There was a awful lot of refuse and in that lair. If we could get in there, clear it back up in case the Ratmen have returned, and stash it, you know, underneath piles of garbage, might keep. That might be an alternative option.
I'll be completely honest. I'm not too sure about ever going back down like the rat nest. Once was enough for me. Uh,
I mean, we could gamble on the thing if we wanted to. I don't mean to pry or anything like that. I normally don't worry about anyone else's finances but my own, but I did just get this pistol. Hate to sell it, but I mean, it would really just be an investment. I mean, really is gambling in a sense, but gambling on whatever's inside is worth a hell of a lot more if it's not inside, and also just getting rid of this shit altogether so we can sleep at night.
I'm just thinking, given the hour, do you think we can find a place still open would still be selling the scroll we need. We could head back to Delver's Square and see if I forget the name of the shop specifically that.
Mayras sells used items, so she can just occasionally have stuff of that nature. Otherwise, Nefrindel works at Burnberries, who sells like new magical, pretty much anything. So if you wanted to basically get something on that level, Burnberries is a completely different beast.
We could try Burnberries, but
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. We could set it and forget it if you guys want. I mean,
but where do you want to put it? Or do you want to just leave it here until we have the scroll?
I think if we just decide what our top priority is. I mean, do we just want to tuck it away somewhere for now until a later date? Do we want to make this our top priority to get it open, or somewhere in between?
Does Burnberries keep like regular, normal shop hours? So I imagine Nefrindel could tell us that. Because if they're
It's a later establishment of sorts. They're probably going to be open in a fashion. But yes. And my bad, it should be Danbury's.
in that case, we could just head there now, see if they've got what we need, and get back here as quick as we can, get it open, and
So leaving it in the house and going off to Midtown, seeing if you can catch Danbury's and hopefully find a scroll of knock.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. Are you guys good with that? I mean, what are you thinking?
And I'm good with that. We can get it open, we can get rid of the chest, and then no worries.
yeah.
Excellent. So you guys leave it behind. Let me have everybody roll a d20.
That's a 2.
16.
And 3 for me.
Mine work differently. I roll a 1, but I'm looking for high numbers with mine for encounters. So you guys can head all along your way. You got about like a 25-minute walk through the market into Midtown. It's a nice, like busy evening here in the city. There's definitely like the like sounds of nighttime extravagance going on. You walk past Tavern Row, that's easily filled with a few hundred people who are out, kind of like enjoying like some of those first evenings where you can like start to shed some of the layers of clothing and actually like spend the night, kind of like enjoying a cool evening instead of being like freezing cold. But you do have plenty of those revelers until you get into the actual area of the Delver Square. Where things do quiet down a little bit. There's plenty of movement still at the Ghostly Minstrel to the northeast in town. And then you have a good chunk of movement from the hostel and like the southeast Potter's Inn. But other than those two buildings, the other places are pretty calm and quiet here. Like Rasser's, Bull and Bear are both pretty much shut down. The other side of the street might have a little bit more activity. You can certainly see that Danbury's is the most active of like Ebert's and Miraith's on the other side. But effectively, that side is like kind of awake, but slow kind of going. Whereas you can see people going in and out of Potter's Inn, and Ghostly Minstrel is like making some noise up there. But that's kind of like the vibe of like this square. It's like a dichotomy of like a nightlife and just kind of like a calm night in kind of thing. But assuming you all head into Danbury's, you'll kind of like walk into this like really smoky shop that kind of like has like sage and like lavender in the air, where it's very like heavily incensed inside. And you can kind of feel that there's like a heavy nature to the actual air as there's like all of this smoke, but it's also sort of unnaturally foggy. People's faces in in this place are just kind of naturally obscured in just sort of the setting of it. You can see people who are smoking pipes and exhaling animals into the air, and like they're just kind of like blending into like a scenery almost, as the air itself is kind of thick with smoke. Smells of those herbs, a little bit of kind of like alcohol and like sort of like musk to things, like of the like dirtiness, but heavily herbed in here. There's a lot of like lights kind of flashing, as you kind of gain a sense like this is a magical place. And when everybody's kind of relaxing in the evening, you definitely have like a little bit more of kind of like a nonchalance to kind of like the presence of illusory magic to sort of entertain here. There's different conversations going on here and there, in hushed tones, but overall, you can kind of like pick up there's like a low din of conversation rather than anything like sort of musical happening in this place. These people are more entertained, sort of like with each other and the conversation than necessarily that they're here for something entertaining to happen. Um, Maybe a little bit of kind of like occasional like food brought out here and there. But in general, this place is more or less just like a kind of like smoked hookah shop and bar kind of situation. But you guys can kind of walk in. Probably about 3 out of 4 seats in this place are taken. There's not going to be a specific table at present that is just entirely open that 4 people could sit at. Um, but you can spot that there's like 1 or 2 places here and there that are closest to each other, and then 2 at the bar. So you could kind of get like 2 different groups of you together ish, and near ish to that kind of position on the bar. Oren is the barkeep. We could head over, and Neferndel kind of like points out those 2 seats, and then 2 of us could just pull up those 2, and you just see like 2 high tops that are next to it, like where you could steal a chair from each of them and kind of pull up next to the bar.
That sounds good to me. And Dalton will start moving towards one of the chairs to bring it to the bar.
Are we looking to ask somebody to unlock it? Or are we just looking for the magic that we take? Could I ask Tabor? Like, do you, or just nobody else?
Yeah, I think we're open to either option. I think discretion is probably ideal over saving money.
I mean, hopefully, whatever's in that chest is worth the gold we spent to open it.
I'm thinking the fewer people know about it, the better. So it'll be more expensive, but if there's somebody we think we can trust to keep their mouth shut, even if we pay them a bit extra than their usual fee, it might still be cheaper than if we were to purchase the magic to do it ourselves. But it's a risk.
So if somebody wants to just ask Oren if he has a scroll of knock for sale tonight, we could do that. Otherwise, and she like points off to like two figures who are kind of like off in a corner, and they don't seem to be speaking. The smoke seems to be like stagnated around them. There doesn't seem to be any like anything reflecting like the glow of their pipes as they like inhale and the cherry glows red. The smoke doesn't seem to like exit out of their cloak as they breathe out. It just hangs in the air. And she just kind of points, I think those are agents of the Dreaming Apothecary if we need to buy one of the scrolls. Um, but otherwise, does somebody want to ask? Or in he's and like the bartender's coming towards you guys.
So yeah, perhaps we see what Oren's got.
So if you will, roll a D100 for me.
That's a 10.
So he'll, set up whatever like drinks everybody kind of orders. Um, then it's kind of like simple like two ingredient kind of cocktails. Very kind of simple stuff. But tends to be say like whiskey sours and kind of things like that where you have like gin and tonics, kind of very simple 1 and 2. And as you kind of like order those, you kind of like just pass on this kind of idea, like however you might want to phrase it. How do you think you would ask him for um a scroll of knock? Do you think you're just going to be, and we're also looking for a magical item? Like, how do you think you would phrase it?
I feel like Dalton would want to be a little bit circumspect, so maybe be like, this is a bit embarrassing, but lost a key to a rather important item, and well, it's of a somewhat sensitive nature. So I was hoping there might be something. We
So
might.
just as you're kind of like almost like stuttering on for a moment, kind of like dancing around it, no worries there, son. It's pretty normal for book to need, and he'll kind of like shuffle through some stuff like that's under the bar, and you can hear like a little bit of like the parchment kind of between his thumb. And after a few moments, he like pulls out like just a tri-folded piece of parchment and kind of like hands it to you. A scroll, a knock there. And he kind of like looks under something else. 170 gold.
So Dalton's gonna glance towards Malchin and Jinx, but if he doesn't see any kind of sign that they are opposed, he will offer to purchase it.
Signs of opposition from Malshin.
So are you saying no signs or signs? Sorry.
No signs.
Yeah, so Dalton will go to probably like carve off a piece of the trade bar. Probably about like I guess about a third.
Roll a sleight of hand.
That would be an 11.
Gotcha. So yeah, you like pull this out and you like take this trade bar in between like your stomach and like the bar in front of you and just like take out your knife that you would, like eat your dinner with, kind of like dagger on you. And you just like jab the knife into the gold with like a little bit of force, and then you take like your other hand against the back of the blade and just like slam it between the blade and the bar, and there's just like a thunk as like this chunk of the gold just like pops up on the bar, and you just kind of like look at Orin with like kind of a little bit of a shrug, and he's just gonna kind of look around and see, like with a little bit of a relief, nobody seems to have noticed as he's taken that gold off the counter and kind of like taking it under the counter out of view. You go and take care of your business and be more wary. But it's a pleasure to assist you this evening. And while you're here, don't hesitate for more drinks if you might need them.
Yes, apologies, Orin. I'll keep that in mind for the future. And I'll go to pocket the scroll.
Yeah, Neferndel, like just kind of like leaning over, like he's kind of telling you it's brave of you to travel with your trade bar on you.
Well, I don't. Not something I normally do, but figured we're going to be laying some money out, so easier than looking around sacks of coin.
True enough. There's always chopping it up into smaller pieces when you're in the privacy of your own home and not walking into a bar filled with greedy wizards and doing it in full view while we buy something that basically says that we're thieves.
Fair point.
And she's just kind of like looking at her drink, tilting it back. Does anybody else have anything to do while we're here? Another drink at the minstrel? We're going straight home?
I don't think we should dilly dally around. Let's see if this works. And of course, Dalton, we'll put that 170 there towards the cost of doing business as well.
Well, I'm hoping to recoup my investment, but agreed, we should probably go ahead and get back.
So you guys can head back to the Goblin House. Overall, heading back there without a problem. You guys can return into the just cellar area. And who would like to try to cast knock? Was it a bard spell that you guys both have the ability to cast it? I'm almost positive a ranger cannot cast knock, but
It is on the bard spell list. But
gotcha. So I think when you're casting a scroll that you have, it is DC 10 plus the spell level minus casting modifier. So it's 12. And what's your casting modifier? Like a +6 right now?
I think it's what, proficiency bonus plus charisma, so it'll be a 7 for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you're looking at like a 5 as your DC level to try to cast that. So, 4 out of 5 times. Well, actually, really, it's probably 5 out of 6 times you are successful casting that spell. Are you ready to cast it?
Before you do cast it, if you're going to do it, I will give you my last bardic inspiration.
Much appreciated, Jinx. Yeah, so with that, I think that will make Dalton more confident and ready to cast it, or try to cast it, I should say.
So that looks good there.
Yeah, it would be I guess a 19. Yeah.
So you cast knock. I am pretty sure this spell chimes for 1,000 feet.
I think it says audible to 300 feet, but then that could obviously echo if we're. But it's a very loud noise, so it could easily travel 1,000 feet, I would think.
I mean, I was coming out. That's top of my head. I'm not looking at the spell when I say that. So, yeah, 300 feet. I see it there. Yeah. So let's see. I think everybody would definitely be surprised as you're underground, like insulated by the earth. This would have sort of a like resonant effect as you cast this spell. It's very much like the tinnitus bringing on effect of some of the kind of thunder spells that you guys have sort of used and almost I know like Dalton has already kind of stepped away from, where you have this like residual effect of loss of hearing simply from using it, and it's just kind of a moment of what did we do? But you cast the spell, and what would you like to do?
Attempt to open the chest, I guess. After kind of like recovering from the ringing.
So when you go to unlock or go to open the chest, theoretically it should be unlocked at this point, and the top does not move.
Um, Dalton's going to turn to Malchin, and maybe it's I don't know. Maybe there's a combination of. Does it still look like there's no physical locking mechanism?
Mountain, roll a investigation.
That is a 5.
Mountain kind of like drops down to take a look and pulls out some of his lockpicks to kind of feel on the inside. Feels the same. Feels smooth, kind of lacking on places to like hit into a pin where you can feel the pressure. It does not seem like you can just like open this up. Um, yeah, I would say it feels pretty much exactly the same as it did the first time you were trying to pick this lock.
While you guys have been like messing around with this, you'll notice Jinx like lights up a fresh cigarette, and he's been like digging through his pack, and now he's just standing there with the crowbar in his hand. I mean, we've got 10 minutes. It's worth a shot, right? I mean, if you don't think you can get it open the proper way.
I don't have any other ideas, and Dalton will kind of like step aside for Jinx.
So while Jinx goes to crowbar this, let me get a D20 from Dalton, but I just want a generic D20 because it's somebody else to do the test with. And then Jinx, you can do a strength check with advantage.
It's a 7 from me.
I mean, I prefer not to do actual manual labor, but I suppose it is my crowbar. Double 16s, -2, so 14 total. You know what? I'm gonna juice it up with my inspiration too. For what is it? Extra D6?
Uh, what is it? I feel like it should be an extra proficiency die. So yeah, D6 sounds right. Or I guess I
Nice.
said it as just a full extra D6. So that's just a 17 at that point.
But it's -2, so it's really a 15 total.
Gotcha. I think you're gonna kind of get to the point where, like, Jinx is like standing on the crowbar, having other people kind of like hold his hand so he can balance, and he is like as far out on the crowbar as he can go, as he's kind of like putting like a little bit of like bounce into his legs, but is still like not fully trusting it with all of his body weight, but he's also certainly on there pretty precariously, and it's not budging.
So, just a quick question. So, Delton's not, this is the first time he's casted. He's not familiar with it. But does he, as far as he knows, if he casts the spell, I guess the sound kind of would, you know, so he's pretty sure he cast the spell that he
Yeah,
thought he was casting.
your interaction with the weave, the effect of it actually ringing and causing that noise all around, you're relatively sure you cast knock, and for whatever reason, something failed. But as far as you can tell, it's essentially whatever is locking this chest is more powerful than the spell you attempted to use to unlock the chest.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, whatever's in there, they've gone to a lot of lengths to keep it from falling into anyone else's hands.
Neferndel
Yes.
kind of like leans back. That's how we know there's so much in there of value.
Obviously, there must be some way to get it open, but
She kind of like looks around at you guys. It's time to sleep and do research. To the libraries tomorrow? I have to work though, so it's going to be for you guys to do.
well, at this point, seems like there's not much else to do for now. Um, Unless we want to revisit stashing it somewhere other than here, but perhaps it would be best to keep it close, keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty exhausted myself. Feels like we might be in over our heads on this one, so maybe a good night rest will help us get to the bottom of it. But I think we should figure out a way or another to get rid of this thing by tomorrow.
I vote we stash it here. I think if we take it down beneath the house, we can leave it in the Undercity, and that should be some protection, at least.
I think putting it somewhere where it doesn't lead them directly to us is probably a good idea. So I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
And maybe while a couple of us are doing some research tomorrow, trying to figure out how to get into this damn thing or what the hell it would be, um, maybe one of us could see if we can get to the bottom of who's missing it or what the hell it is.
So, sound acceptable by everybody that you basically take a few minutes to take it beneath the house. You move it into the Undercity, and do you have thoughts about where you would leave it? Uh, like, there's a certain level of, I think Neferndel is aware enough that, like, locate object, if that's what you guys are worried about, would bring somebody to that area of the North Market. It wouldn't necessarily tell you how somebody got down below the surface. But it's not specifically going to lead like to your house.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we could, try and explore a little bit and see if we can find like a little side room or we could try and bury it like in the just like near the lake, like just like a little shallow hole, and try to sort of.
I don't know what sort of rock it would make the most sense to say like the beachfront area is made out of that would support a cave without like being like rocky kind of beach instead of like sandy beach, if that makes sense. I'm not sure you really have burying as too much of an option here, so much as like covering with stones, if that makes sense. There's not like just dirt. What you guys have seen of this location is like hauled passages, sort of the Undercity and like kind of Bane Warren's nature, and then like rough, unhewn stone that is more natural caverns. And that's where I would say like the beach is probably large pebbles, um, but long before it's like smooth sand kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think you guys have potentially one location. You've already found that area off the actual like underground lake that you could potentially just hide it. But other than that, I think at present you guys basically have only walked between the stairs down from the Goblin House, and you found another set of stairs down deeper into the Undercity, as well as you've basically not explored a hall that sort of leads off away from the Goblin House. So that's kind of, again, that's like what you guys see here on this map at present is effectively um, one known exit and then two locations that just go further into the unexplored.
So wait, are we at the orange spot? With the like triangle?
The orange triangle leads up to the Goblin House.
Okay, so that's like where we're coming down from.
Correct.
So do you guys want to stash it in the cave, or do you want to stash it in the water?
I would say the cave. I'm just not sure if we put it in the water how we're going to get it back out.
You good with that, Mountain? If we just go in that little like cave in the middle and just pile up a bunch of rocks on it? Maybe do like prestidigitation and like soil the area so it doesn't look fresh.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I feel like if you prestidigitate soil an area, it's going to be a limited time frame. It's kind of an interesting, like, poo be gone sort of scenario of like, where does the poo go and where does it come from? If you can just create it without consuming food, again, I don't think we need to go into that. But I'm not sure how much prestidigitation. I feel like you guys could do it, but I'm just saying I'm not sure that's gonna last.
Oh yeah, I figured prestidigitation was more just like you kind of just like use magic to like move some dirt and mud onto it so it looks like soiled or off of it. I didn't get like the impression I'm like creating shit. I was just saying so it doesn't look like super fresh, like we were just here, kind of cover up our like footprints and stuff, stuff like that.
Yeah, it says it's got a duration of 1 hour, so I'm wondering if that's for all of the effects.
That's kind of where I'm going with it because I feel like prestidigitation. Normally, people are talking about like a wizard cleaning his clothes rather than like actually like dirtifying stuff. I like the use of like hiding your kind of like your trail. But it seems kind of comical to be like, yeah, I'm gonna like make this shitty and dirty. But yeah, if that works for you guys, that little just like square rectangle will be where you guys kind of leave it. A little bit essentially behind an already stalactite, and you kind of just pile up some other rocks behind it, and you can head back to the Goblin House. And let's take a break here. Let's say come back in 15 or so minutes, about 20 after the hour. If everybody is back before then, we will start up early. But otherwise, let's take a few moments here and rejoin shortly.
All right.
Yep, be back in a bit.
Just mixing up a cup of coffee here. I feel like I've heard Dalton and Malchin.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep, I'm back as well.
Yeah, I'm here too.
Alrighty, so theoretically, we can allow you guys a long rest here, and you can decide on how, where, and what you would like to do to kind of further your investigation of this chest, and or anything else that you guys have any interest in pursuit.
I think Dalton's plan is probably going to be to go to the Delver's library, thinking this might be the sort of thing that other Delvers have encountered, magically sealed containers and such. So he's hoping maybe there's something in there about, like, potentially other ways of protecting, valuables, because it seems like our initial thought didn't work. So that would probably be where he would be planning to head.
What are Jinx and Malchin thinking?
I think maybe I'll slink into the shadows with Jinx, and I'll kind of ask around town, some of my like sources, if anybody has been looking for the chest, or if anybody knows whose chest it is.
I think Malsham will actually go to like the Thieves Guild and like ask around to see like if anyone has any tips for magically locked chests. Yeah.
Gotcha. So let's see. I think let me get a history from Dalton. I think that's kind of what you're going for. Um, looking for like if any other um delvers have encountered this sort of situation. You're looking for like a historical record. And then I feel like with Malchin, you're looking for um maybe I feel like that could be like a charisma, like you're trying to charm, trying to persuade somebody to tell you how they've accomplished things. It could be that you are going to a source of information for and trying to do a similar thing as Dalton, where you're trying to recover a history on the subject. Um, they're kind of both almost what I would want to say are like library uses right now. But I feel like the history is probably more like looking into book smarts of how it's been accomplished. With the Long Fingers Guild, though, you have the potential of simply trying to be persuasive to get somebody to tell you that story. And then Jinx, I'm thinking yours is kind of like either stealth, to just try to like listen into conversations, or I'm thinking you're looking for like persuasion to kind of like get people to share information with you. You're trying to like basically like steer the conversation to get what you're looking from it. But I feel like those are the roles. If anybody has another thought on what they would like to roll, let me know and we can possibly have that be the role.
Yeah, how do you think history makes sense for mine?
Yeah, I think Marshall will go for the persuasion, but basically try to butter someone up to see if we can get some information.
And Jinx has got a natural 20 for a thick 30 on persuasion.
Yeah, Martian got a 3 total. 4 with a -1.
So
Mine,
you pick up the slack plenty of time.
mine's a flat 16.
Alrighty. So Um, yeah, Malchin, you're pretty much going to come back with little to no thoughts on where the Longfinger Guild goes for it. From what you know and who you know to talk to, you basically get a lot of like jeers at you, effectively like playing off on you don't have the experience to pick a lock and you're talking this one up as if it's magical when really it's just that you suck. If they were there to pick that lock, they would be able to pick it in a minute and be in that loot already. And they just basically are essentially just making fun of you and your inability to pick locks. Clearly, nothing magical of that nature exists. Dalton, you probably find occasions where you've got delvers getting into situations where things are locked in magical means. And there's points where you really do start to think that there are other things kind of referenced as the solution. But each time you kind of just find like the text is just magically left blank, and I'm saying magically, like from our perspective, kind of like ironically, left blank, right where you would expect the noun to be of what they're talking about they use to unlock this door. And then like another area where you see this other delver who's doing this other thing, and magically the noun is once again seemingly left blank when they came to this point of opening this lock. And you kind of find a few different sources where it's just like, this is just too much to be coincidental. Something fills in this blank. You just don't have the answer for it. And then Jinx, you're hanging around and there's nothing in particular that's telling you there is somebody going after this group. You're not like finding anything that connects the dots to anything that you feel is like a threat to you. What you do start to pick up on though, is sort of like mutterings of a new chaos cult acting in Old Town. The Knights of the Pale are considering another raid on the Pythoness house. And basically, you just kind of pick up these kind of recurring thoughts of the Knights of the Pale kind of looking to raid this brothel, and that they're doing it again. And then just kind of this idea that like the Crimson Coil, like that name, just keeps kind of popping up. Um, so yeah, I would say at this point, the end of your day, when you guys are all kind of coming back together, you're effectively being pointed in that direction of finding out what the Knights of the Pale are up to, what the Crimson Coil is up to, and the one place that you have named is the Pythoness House of Old Town.
And the Crimson Coil, that is the name of the cult.
Indeed.
Thank you. So yeah, I would share all of that, and then essentially just probably game plan. If they're planning on raiding the house soon, maybe we don't want to show up over there, but also could be the last chance to get some key information before it falls into their hands.
Yeah, I would be curious to know why they're considering raiding the place. Sounds like not for the first time. And I had no luck finding anything that's going to help us with our immediate problem with the chest. So
Do we have any idea if the chaos like cults are specifically affiliated with like chaos tech?
Roll a history or arcana for me.
20. I'm on fire with these last couple of rolls.
Probably from what you all have learned over time, because on some level, even though you guys haven't focused in on actually researching chaos tech, theoretically you do still learn little bits here and there about it. It is still something rare. It's not something that the Church of Luthien even really talks about. Father Gustav is the location. But the father that you guys know from the Guildsman district, Brother Ambersov, I feel like, will talk to you guys about it in like hushed tones. But he's pretty apocryphal, and you guys probably understand that by just recognizing chaos tech is existing. Most of you, I think, at this point would have a solid understanding, and if not, Jinx might have encountered it with some of the like conversations you've listened to. Chaos tech is often things that are gifted to cultists for their duty. Often, this is the type of thing of like somebody sacrifices their hand in a ritual, and part of an end effect of the ritual, or sometime down the line of that ritual's effects, they are basically given a chaos tech hand to replace that. Sometimes it's a tentacle, sometimes it's a spike. It varies what these things are, but chaos tech is often something bestowed by these evil deities for something given. They often basically though are like physical body parts that are given up and replaced with technology.
Okay, so they're always like an augment though. Like we understand that there's a difference between what happened to me and Malchin and like the actual chaos tech as like a physical thing.
I would say that you guys might be starting to think that, but you still have the first bit of what you guys know as Chaos Tech. You don't necessarily know or understand what about that was an augment, because that first thing that you came across was effectively that singing bowl that you guys encountered on the ship Parnassus Jewels.
Okay, very cool. So what do you guys think? Do you want to try to like go infiltrate, poke around that house? Do you want to try to find out more info? What do you
yeah, I mean, I think bards rarely need that good of an excuse to go visit a brothel. So
Yeah, and I feel like if it's about to get raided and we can possibly get info before it's too late, like after the raid, we might not be able to get what we're looking for.
yeah, I definitely think there's it's worth going sooner. Yeah, see if we can maybe learn some stuff before the raid.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Seems like a good idea.
Let me get a couple of D12s from you all as you head to the Pythoness house. Oh, wait a second. I told you guys it is in Old Town. Um, Probably have to have you guys stopping like at the Dover's Guild kind of thing. Gotcha. Um, yeah, I think it's basically the kind of thing where you have to like stop off at the Dover's Guild. You know this is in Old Town. You have a few different options of how you could go about figuring like where the location is, like heading towards the Dalen Gate to actually speak to some guards there. But you know, overall, one of the kind of like quietest ways to go about things is to go where you belong. Go to the Delvers Guild. It's one of the first stops when you get into Old Town, and you guys can speak with. I can't think of the old man's name. So many fucking NPCs. Shad Livovic. And basically hear from him. The Pythoness house is effectively in the northwestern corner of Old Town. It's a stretch to call it a house. It is one of the oldest structures in the city. The Pythoness house is a castle of sorts. It is like large flagstone blocks that form much of the outer gates. It has, I think, a turret at three of its four cardinal directions. By and large, it is a keep inside of Old Town. And I believe you can see that's close, but not quite where I meant to draw it. It is. I think I can adjust this. Don't try to adjust it, create a new one. I'm pretty sure that's the spot. If it's not that one, it's this little guy up there. But I think it's the like off-angled one at the north of Toner Street, over by the old city gate. And then again, as you guys kind of head off in this direction, um, Shad basically tells you like the house by and large is in ruins. It hasn't been occupied for quite some time. It hasn't been run as a brothel for an incredibly a long time. And I think it's been about 100 years since it's been in operation. And in the last I think 20 or so years, it's essentially been abandoned. So on some level, you guys have the directions kind of like up the Emperor's Road. And then kind of following it towards the old city gate. And then you could probably see the castle from there, and it's kind of just like turn towards the spire, head off towards the castle. It's got a little bit of like a ruined wall like around it, but Old Town, middle of the day, there's probably not too much like going on this street at that given time. You guys can certainly find a point to just kind of like almost just walk into the wall without being noticed at all, except for by like somebody who was 100% following you this entire time and is definitely by no means far more skilled at stealthy things than you guys.
So we definitely noticed someone's been following us.
Oh, you guys don't know that? He's stealthier than you guys are.
Oh, I thought you said you just told us that.
No. What I'm saying is like you guys have a chance where you could like walk in there and unless somebody was far more skilled than you could even like expect, you're not being followed. My point was more or less to say like, look, you guys aren't being followed unless you're being followed.
So yeah, I guess we would just kind of dip in there and um what, just be stealthy at first, guys? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. If the knights think it's a front for being occupied by a cult, probably makes sense. Yeah, to be try and maybe be sneaky.
So yeah, I guess we would just kind of try to make our way towards like the central portion of it, and just sort of investigate, right?
Yeah, but I guess probably would make sense to like look for signs of recent occupation, like footprints or like discarded, you know, item, like food or things like that.
I mean, I'm definitely assuming it's occupied. If they're planning on raiding it, it's just a matter of trying to find like the HQ.
Alrighty. Yeah, so I think I was wrong to say that it has the three spires. No, I see the three spires here. So, again, this is a keep with like the western side has the largest turret, like on an outside wall, and that's kind of like southwest of you, and that is closest to the actual wall of these kind of like city around you. It has a large entryway gate that is effectively open. Again, this place, as far as you know, is abandoned. As far as Shad knows, it is abandoned. And I don't know if I had you roll for what that library would be. But I think you guys could also know that the most recent raid of the Knights of the Pale was 3 years ago that this place was last raided. Other than that, there is like the actual like inner keep, which is like another square section, is the northeastern section. And then there's another tall spire on top of that, as well as a central spire that is essentially like the center of this whole location. And I think that gives you kind of like an understanding of the castle or this keep. I didn't really prepare this as if you're gonna go around so much as like, well, I guess these maps are a little different. So theoretically, when you guys like dip into the actual like inside of the like outer wall to the city around it, you would see at least like this entryway portion, the front of the castle. So you've got like the front square of this castle with like the actual entry gate there. That's just like the arch gate where you would almost have like a portcullis sort of on each side of it, on the inside of the keep and then on the outside of the keep wall. And then you've got the actual like one of the main turret, the southwest turret, is effectively around this like edge here on again the southwest.
If they've left the gate open for us, I suppose it'd be rude not to head in.
So I think on some level, like from like that outside view, you guys could see like there is like this kind of like grassy area as the inside of this place's general location. But again, my map is specifically just the actual like inside of the keep. This is just like overgrown kind of like grassy area. You guys start to head in. Who is going to take the lead? Are you guys walking into the courtyard?
That's Dalton's thought, but I'll let Jinx kind of lead the way on this one.
Oh, is that the courtyard entrance, like at the south end?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think we just sneak on up there. I can go first if you want. Doesn't matter.
So, let me get a couple of stealth rolls here from.
11.
23.
And 13 for Malshan.
Alrighty, so as you guys enter into this area, you can see that there is a main entrance to the actual house inside of this courtyard to the northwest. That area kind of like curves around. It has some like windows that open up. You can see like a dusty, but otherwise like, once nice, like a red kind of carpet that kind of like holds like this area of the house, like the actual entryway. It was just kind of like a welcoming room and seems to just kind of have suffered from the elements over the last few years since effectively like the door was kind of like knocked down and basically like opened up the house to the elements. And then I think to the east, you'll see that there is like kind of I think that's meant to be a ladder just to the second level of the house. But it basically is a small ladder that leads up to a further level. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the entryway for you guys here. Kind of like stepping into this area, you probably start to. Let me get a perception check from everybody.
5 for me.
8 for Jinx.
25 for Malshan.
Are you at the back of the group, Malchin? Are you kind of like following behind everybody else?
Yeah, I'm at the back of the group.
So I'd say as you basically watch them kind of like moving into the courtyard, and then you kind of like look to the back, make sure nobody's like following you guys through the gate into like this grassy area. And then like you watch as like Dalton enters into the courtyard and you kind of like move in through the portcullis and kind of like look behind you to make sure that nobody is like in the courtyard now. You just feel like you notice like a little flash of movement, as if somebody kind of like crossed behind. Double check, look behind you, swear there's nothing there. But like corner of your eye, you also definitely saw somebody move. So you've got kind of those like conflicting kind of perceptions going on here.
I'm probably gonna lean into Dalton. Yes, I think I just saw something move, but I can't see anything anymore. But I could swear I saw something, but there's nothing there now. Just wanted to let you know there might be something here.
All right. Thanks, Malchin. And he'll kind of take maybe a step up towards Jinx and just kind of try and quietly get his attention and keep your eyes out, Jinx. Often thinks he saw something. Don't think this place might not be as deserted as it looks.
I'll give him the old nod, yes, and keep kind of moving forward.
Gotcha. So you watch as like Jinx heads towards the door, and you look behind yourself, Malchin, and like just looking for signs of that person moving. And like Dalton covers like the courtyard and like goes towards that entrance. Jinx kind of enters into it, and you're now like at the like second portcullis is above you, and you feel like you hear like whispers behind, and you look, and there's just nobody where that whisper came from. That person was like right beside you. There's nobody standing beside you. And you see like Dalton's heading into the house, and Jinx is already kind of like slowly moving along, kind of like the north edge. Kind of moving along that north edge of that entry hall. And you're kind of like looking across, and you see as Dalton kind of steps in, and right as you go to like run across this side, you hear like another like whisper in your ear, and like look to the left, and there's like a little like wisp of a shadow in that corner of the courtyard, but like besides the movement, there's nothing. You don't see anything, but your eye caught it. Something's there, but there's nothing there. And by the time you kind of like get to this wall, you can see Dalton kind of like moving to the other kind of corner of that room. And basically, they are kind of like spotting off. There's three doors in this room, two that go north, one that goes south, and there's a stair. And you're still outside. You hear whispers. Somebody moved from that corner, and they said something as they got into the center of the courtyard. There's nobody there. So you've got Malchin right outside of the front door. Jinx, you've got a stairway to your left, a door immediately to the left and above you, and then a door on the south side of this room as well. Dalton, there is a door immediately above you, and then there is a curtain that kind of blocks off this edge here. I think it's safe for you to recognize that the curtain extends inside of the house. Like there should be no wall there.
Yeah, so I think Dalton is going to, still trying to move stealthily. He's going to make his way over towards the curtain, and maybe is the kind of curtain like where he could try to essentially like kind of pull it back a little bit and try to peek over on the other side.
Yeah, roll an investigation.
That'll be a 21.
So you move the curtain out of the way, and you see another door, just about like 10 or 15 feet above you into the north. And then you can see a stairway. I think that stairway leads down directly in front of you as well.
Yeah, so I think Dalton will kind of turn back towards Jinx, and he'll just like make a like a motion with his finger, like kind of pointing down. Kind of like he'll like kind of sort of gesture, towards the, curtain, like on the other side of the curtain, and then kind of gesture, like pointing down.
My bad. No, it does lead up.
So yeah, just pointing up instead of down. Then he's basically just saying like essentially trying to communicate like I found the way up.
Are those stairs right there going up also? The ones like to the left if you're looking at the screen?
Yeah, those do lead up as well.
All right, I'll shake my head to him and I'll start working towards those stairs right there.
Yeah, I think Malshan would probably be investigating the whispers and like the things he saw. Try to find them.
How are you investigating these whispers?
I guess I would go like from where I last heard them, see if I can spot anything else in the direction
Center
I
of
heard
the
it from.
courtyard.
Yeah.
No, that's my point. Is it's the center of the courtyard. It's an open courtyard.
Yeah, so I'm moving like center courtyard. Let's see if I can hear anything more or like spot any more shadows.
Roll another perception.
$26.
Alrighty. So you guys have Malchin in the center of the courtyard. Dalton is heading across the room to meet Jinx at the western staircase. And Jinx, are you heading up the staircase? Or are you just like waiting for them at that point?
I think probably I would start like to head up the staircase, but I'm still focused mostly on being stealthy. And also, I have no idea Malchin went back out there. I'm assuming we were kind of all flowing in.
Gotcha. So I think at this point, Malchin, you are going to spot that there are two figures kind of like walking over the entry arch and kind of like looking down upon you. And it's going to be at that point that I think the door right between Dalton and Jinx is going to kind of get kicked open here. And let's go for an initiative.
The 16 for Dalton.
18 for Malshan.
And Jinx is 7.
18 Malchin, 16 Dalton, and 7 for Jinx.
Yep, that sounds right. Oh, before we get into the combat, since this is a new day, should we have re-rolled for hit points?
Oh yeah, yep. When you guys long rested, after that day, it would be fresh hit points.
So what is it? 5 times our die, like 5 of those dice, because that's our level, and then our con modifier times our level.
You have 1 hit die per level, so if you've always taken the same thing, you should have all the same hit die. I think it's a D8 with bards. And that's what you roll each day. And then you take your con modifier times 5 is your base. So theoretically, you've got I think, a +4 from your deformity. So you have like 20 hit points plus 5d8.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought, but I couldn't remember if there was some other base to it. So yeah, I got it.
I think the other thing is that like if you roll underneath your average with your hit dice, you're allowed to take the average. So that's like kind of the minimum would be whatever that is, like 40 hit points, I think, 20 and 20, versus you could roll over that and have like up to like, 60.
Okay, I rolled 19, so I really have 40, not 39.
Yeah, I think that's when you would take the average of 4 times 5 is 20 plus your con modifier times 5, which I think is 20. Alrighty. So I think I have. Alrighty. So yeah, Malchin, you see these two figures kind of overhead the arch as they're like trying to basically do something nefarious. You've seen these shadows, you've heard these whispers. It's kind of up to you how to interpret this thing. I think with the 26 and how things play out, I think it is perfectly acceptable for you all to recognize that on some level, the targets that are approaching you guys are walking and moving like ratlings. Let alone once you actually start to fight them, you will very quickly become kind of keen to that. But you guys have quite an extensive history with fighting ratlings. What would you like to do, Malchin?
Let's see. I mean, I would be able to hear the door being kicked open by Dalton and Jinx, right?
Don't back them up. You know something's going on outside here.
Oh, all right. Well, let's
You
see
got
then.
a 26 though, so you're not unaware of it. But I still think you just came out here for a reason, so but do what you will.
Yeah, no, you're right. Did go out for a reason. I did find it, so yeah, I think they will be okay. I'm gonna try to stall these guys at least. Let's go. Going for the one directly south of me with both my weapons.
My bad. Those guys are up and above you.
All right,
You
we're up
want to
north.
get to them. Yeah, they are
Mm.
effectively on top of the archway. So it's ranged weapon, or I mean that again could be the reason why you're running inside. It's ranged weapon or basically running up to the level they're on.
Yeah, I don't get to use my bow too often. I'm gonna go ranged weapon. Still the same, like target one, the one where you can see like the sword and whole body.
Gotcha. Oh, I didn't even realize I dropped like the same rat. I did that wrong.
Okay, that's nat one. So
Hey, you gain inspiration. But yeah, definitely a big old fail as you take a shot at him within that one. You are just going to um, maybe even like the actual what is it? It's not like the actual it's the bone part of the back of the arrow. When you like let go of the string, the bone just like shatters. That arrow has no knock. There we go. That's the word for it. The knock like shatters as the bowstring like just kind of like breaks through like an oddly fragile piece of the bone. That arrow is effectively wasted. I don't really care about you guys keeping up on your arrows, but that arrow goes. You still have another shot though, if you would like to take it.
yeah, I'm gonna try and see if I can hit with a second arrow.
So this is one of those things that I would normally rather you actually say what you were doing with all of your attacks before you start rolling. Do you think you would rather take 2 shots at a single target, or would you rather take 1 shot at 2 targets normally here?
Oh, I would go like 2 shots for a single target.
Gotcha. So make another shot at the other one there.
Yeah, then that's the 11 I rolled.
Gotcha. With that shot, like it doesn't actually not hit the rat. Like as you shoot up, you see it like pierce through this thing's shoulder. But it's like lifting this big solid like circular object, and you start to see like a little bit of like light kind of sparkling on top of the object as it lifts this like black ball above its head. Your arrow like goes right through its shoulder, but it doesn't even flinch. You'll probably quickly recognize you shot like right through the leather of its armor. Just barely, perhaps missing, but you did miss at least like potential of like knocking whatever this sparkling object is out of its hand. And it is going to lob this thing down at you.
All right.
I think it's gonna miss you with a 13 to hit. I think you're at AC. Was it 17?
As I'm using my bow, I'm only 16 right now.
Oh, my bad. This is actually a dexterity saving throw. Yeah, so it's gonna pop off, like basically right near you and just kind of like explode in a 5 foot area as this big black object kind of like thumps down on the ground as you're kind of like running towards that door. You see like the sparkle of this fuse as it burns up, and then is going to pop. Can you roll a dexterity saving throw for me, please?
A 26.
Oh, my bad. Damn, I rolled good damage, and it is a save or suck. The other one is going to do the same thing as it also like lifts this black object. Oh, I don't roll for this. Roll another dexterity saving throw. As the other one lifts one of these black objects, hucks it over the ledge at you, and that one looks like you missed.
Yeah, that's a nat 1 for 10 total.
Do you have inspiration right now?
Yeah, I do.
What was it? Does Dalton have inspiration right now? Is everybody inspired?
I do not. I use
I
mine
think
up.
Jinx does, so we could give inspiration to Dalton there as you roll that nat one, and then you will take 8 fire damage as this one explodes. The first one, you're like so busy dodging kind of these metal shrapnel pieces as they're exploding around you. The second one kind of lands right at your feet, and it's like mid stride. You just have to like step over this thing as it pops. You feel the flame, you feel hot, like near molten metal kind of like sinking into your flesh. And it's going to go to Dalton.
Yeah, so Dalton, you said this door below to our south was kind of like being kicked open, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dalton is kind of he's moved, as he kind of hears that, he's turning, drawing his rapier and moving towards that, even as he hears kind of these. I imagine he can hear the explosions outside, and that might be
Indeed.
kind of, and that's probably like when he kind of first notices like Malchin's kind of headed back out. Um, and so he's going to be like, he's going to shout to Jinx, like, Jinx, see what's going on, as he tries to stab out at this rat creature through the doorway. And we're going to go ahead and use that inspiration now. But that's only going to be even with inspiration, that's a 13 to hit.
Attacking with your rapier?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this is kind of one of those things like it's smashing open this door, and you see as it's like kind of like pulling back its kick to like lunge out with its own sword. You just kind of like reflexively kind of like draw your rapier up, and it's just one of those things you slip a little bit into its leather before the blade catches, and as it slides down and in, you pull it back, and it does come back with blood. Roll for damage.
So that would be 6 damage total.
Gotcha. That is going to leave this person like pretty thoroughly wounded as you pull that blade back. Anything else from you at present?
That's all he's going to hold in the doorway there. So yep, that's all for Dalton.
Gotcha. So as you kind of like lunge into this creature like immediately on the other side of the door, you see this like huge humanoid like rat that's just kind of like standing over it. And like your first impression is almost like that this is like part of like the furniture and like draperies of this room. But you see this creature is just like this entire area of refuse is really just like clotted garbage that's like stuck to this rat like creature, and it just kind of almost like stands into its hind legs and kind of like smashes into that area. It is going to swing first its sword at you and then second try to actually bite you.
Can
With the
I cutting
sword,
words that first one?
most certainly, yes.
Subtract 3.
Sword slash across you, a 17, I believe, is still gonna hit.
Yep, that'll hit.
Yep. So it like just slices across you, and you see there's a slight effect to the cutting words. Like it's the type of thing where this thing isn't necessarily fully intelligent enough to really fully appreciate what's going on here. And it definitely just like slams all of its weight into the force of this blade, and it is going to slash you for that's a shitload. 22 slashing damage as it cuts across you.
That leaves. It's probably opening up an artery there on Dalton. He is not looking good after that slash.
And then it is going to follow up and actually try to bite into you as well.
So I'm probably gonna modify your roll on this one.
I got you. You watch as it tries to like bite into him. It like slams its skull into the actual like stone wall, trying to reach out to him. It is too large to get through the doorway, and basically just like slams its head into the doorway. You see, is that whole wall kind of like shakes and little bits of stone kind of like rumbles as this massive creature basically slams its body weight into it trying to bite into Dalton. There's no reason for you to worry about cutting words. Creature fails miserably to bite into him. But that is going to take it to you, Jinx. What would you like to do as you see these two creatures kind of like brawling in front of Dalton? The little guy is certainly wounded and kind of like death's doorish. This big thing is a massive threat.
So I'm
And
gonna
to
go
boot,
ahead.
also again, there's still those explosions outside, and you can probably see Malchin is like running in at present.
I'm gonna go ahead and run over here and kind of like close the gap in between them, and I'm gonna yell out to Malchin. Like I imagine all this shit just hit the fan at once, so I'm just gonna yell out to him, "Shit's hitting the fan in here, brother!" And then I'm gonna do a bane on. Is there a place I can get where I can see the big rat and the two outside?
Uh, I think that's a pretty massive stretch on it because effectively how things are, those two are out and above your sense of view unless you're at the doorway, which basically cuts you off from the big rat.
Okay, I'll just bane the two that I can see, but I do want to yell that to Malchin.
Gotcha. So yeah, the main rat will be the first one. The little guy will be the second one. So, what's your spell DC? I'm almost certain the 19 with the big rat succeeds, but
Yeah, it's 15.
and it's wisdom.
Charisma?
Word. Okay, charisma. Yeah, that doesn't matter anyways. Yeah. So I think as you kind of like weave it, you will get a sense that like something about the massive creature, it just doesn't stick to it. So your magic kind of like weaves around effectively the thing that is closest to dead in this room. But otherwise, it should make it easier to get that kill when it comes time. And that creature.
Okay, can I still do vicious mockery on top of that?
What is it like? Accelerating it to a bonus action? Isn't vicious mockery normally?
Oh wait, no, my bad. I have to pick a bonus action when I do a spell as an action. But I can't do another spell. Yeah, I don't think I really have any bonus.
Yeah, like I think you could have increased the speed of Bane to a bonus action and then cast vicious mockery. But I think you had that was the choice you had to make, kind of thing.
No, I have a subtle spell.
Yeah, okay. I thought you had quicken and subtle there.
No, subtle and twin.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, so the little guy is going to attack Dalton here, trying to stab at you with its sword, clinking into the stonework beside it. It's gonna try to like leap out of that room to bite into you with a 12 to hit. I think that's below your AC.
12 will miss. Yeah.
And it's just gonna clear the doorway to kind of that point here. Um, Back around to Malchin.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with shooting 2 arrows into the one that I tried to hit before, like the one southeast. One with the little sword, and you can see the tail and everything. Holy crap! Another nat 1.
Dalton, you can have inspiration again.
Got it.
Oh, there's for my. Fuck it. I'm gonna use my inspiration because I don't want another nat 1. So, I'm gonna hit this one. Good thing I did, because I rolled a 2 and a 13. So let's see. That's 13, 17. Yeah, 21 to hit.
21 is certainly a hit. Creature is unwounded at present, so I think you just roll a d8 plus, what is it, 5 for your dexterity?
4. So 6 total damage. Oh, and I'm gonna put favored foe as well, because I can put that as I hit. That's another d4. So I'm just gonna
Gotcha.
add.
As you hit it,
Yeah, as I hit it.
roll a 3 or better.
I rolled a 3.
Gotcha. So as you shoot up this time, the creature's like kind of like throwing a rope down over the edge, and it's like preparing to like leap over. And as you take a shot up, just kind of like piercing through, like a little bit lower than the arrow before, kind of keeping for that same target. You kind of pierce through its shoulder blade, and the creature's just gonna like let go for an instant, try to like claw for that rope as it's falling, and by the time it hits the ground, arrows through its body, massive amounts of like artillery spray is kind of like pulsing out of it, and you see like the last few gasps as the other one kind of leaps down beside it, and it is going to charge forward into you as it pulls out a sword and slashes at you. What is that, a 16 to hit you?
Yeah,
That's a hit
that
with because you got your bow out.
exactly. So that hits.
And it's going to do 3 slashing damage. and then it's going to try to bite into you as it kind of slides its sword through you. 14 to hit.
That one will miss.
And as it bites into you, it's probably like latching into your armor with the bite, and just kind of like gets a little bit more like groove with its sword as it like pulls back with its bite. But you can kind of like rest assured, like your armor is protecting you at present. And that's going to take us to Dalton.
Yeah, so Dalton is reeling from that massive sword blow from the huge this huge creature behind the doorway here. So as this other one comes rushing out, he kind of he grabs at the potion on his belt, and he's going to down that potion of healing as his bonus action.
Gotcha. Is that like a potion of healing that is from like a particular place that I have you write down where you got it from?
I didn't write it down, but it was the one that I think the last one that Jinx had found in the
Bought from
vault,
the shop?
or did he buy one from a shop?
These things matter. Yeah, we'll just let it go at this point here. But normally I'm going to tell you guys to like write down where it's from because that matters. Because when you go to drink potions, not all potions are potions, and some potions aren't.
Yeah, yeah, Jinx. Do you know which one you gave me?
Oh, it was the one I just bought, like last session when we were shopping.
Gotcha. That's legit. So yeah, that's just a potion.
All right, and with his action, he looks a little bit better, but still, definitely wounded. Is going to try to disengage and back away from these things, back this way. And that is his turn. So he is still bloodied, um, no longer mortally wounded, technically.
Yeah, like squeezing out of the door, this massive like rat creature kind of like forces its way out of that doorway. As it kind of like lumbers towards Jinx, it like raises its sword up, and this thing's probably about 10 or so feet tall. As it brings its sword like up and over its head, the sword's actually like its hands and the sword are like almost at the ceiling up above it. And you just see like little bits of it like kind of like chinking against the stonework above, before like it kind of like starts to let gravity sit in as it swings it down from above, and right at Dalton. Another fucking that one. um, just kind of like clipping into a little bit of stonework at the last moment, like off the wall to the like southeast of it. It just kind of like hits off this stone and like flings the sword like away from you as it kind of like brings it down. And then it's going to doesn't have the same reach with the sword. No, its bite does have a reach, my bad. So yeah, as it kind of like slams down, it's going to try to make the same bite at Dalton as it moves forward as well. And this
Can I
one,
try and cutting words of that?
most certainly.
I don't think I can take a bite from this thing and keep standing. So -3 again.
So it's going to be a 14 to hit.
Whew, just misses. Thank God for that set of leather armor.
So kind of like reaching in, bites out, grabs into like a little bit of the leather of your armor, and it kind of like starts to like pull away, as it's like just kind of like latched into you. And it's gonna go to Jing. Like just below it, you can smell the stench and the rot of this creature.
I'm just gonna say to him, the big rat creature right in front of me. I don't think you need all that wind up to kill a bard, but I'm not criticizing. And then I'm gonna do vicious mockery on him.
To the big guy.
Yeah, so it's a wisdom 15.
Kind of sticking to this is kind of like a similar way of like it's not necessarily intelligent enough to recognize like what an insult is. And it's a little bit more just kind of like natural in how it kind of wields its weapon. Um like it's like a thoughtless process. But this isn't like a powerful monk who learns to shut off their mind. It's more kind of just a mindless brute who simply just doesn't have a mind to start with. But it doesn't seem to take effect.
Can I
Anything else?
do silvery barbs on its successful save?
Yeah, it's on a saving throw as well.
Yeah, it says ability check or saving throw. Yep.
Gotcha. So that will make it fail.
Okay, good.
And you roll damage.
Yep, and I rolled 6. But really, it's about the disadvantage, obviously. But then I'm going to reach over. I'll move a little bit if I have to, and I'm going to hit Dalton with a bonus action heal. And I did second level for a total of 10 points, Dalton.
Thanks, Jinx. Yeah, so that looks Dalton's left looking a lot healthier after that. See some of those like really the bad worst of the wound from the sword blow seems to be kind of closing up.
The wounded rat who's like kind of climbing up the stairs like takes a moment to like pull an object from like a small leather satchel and kind of like dons this like dark black ball of stone, and as it like pulls like a sparker from the side, it like snatches like once against this stone, and you hear like a little bit of the sparking effect as this like other thing in its hand and it strikes against it like stone on stone, and then it strikes again, and you hear like a as this thing like starts to sizzle and it's starting to make light, and you see as the rat kind of like rolls it down the stairs, like and like kind of across the room. It bounces off the wall right beneath this large rat and like rolls between the two of you before it like explodes. I need a dexterity saving throw from the two of you, please.
16 for Jinx.
And 27.
Wow, dexterity saving throws are pointless. So yeah, as it like pops, the two of you kind of like leap out of the way as like the shrapnel starts to fly across the room and like sinks into like a wall here, pierces through the curtain over there, and it's gonna go to Malchin on the outside. You've got a big old creature like striking into them inside of the doorway. One of these creatures is kind of leapt down and is striking into you, and I think it just bit into your armor. Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like almost like not really grappled onto you, but it's currently how I'm describing a rat. It's climbed onto you and it's like slashing into you and biting into your armor. So, what would you like to do?
I would like to drop my bow and pull out my swords and stab into the rat biting into me. Both attacks.
Excellent. So technically, you have the potential of up to 3 attacks against this thing, depending on your bonus action choice.
16 to hit.
Solid hit. Roll for them damage.
For 7 damage.
Excellent. And the subsequent attacks.
17 to hit.
Another solid strike.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna apply the Colossus Slayer on this one. So let's see. For a total of 10 damage.
Excellent. And Colossus Slayer is more or less like your skill at slaying, like it's kind of like hunting beasts, like learning anatomy and really knowing how to strike into things and like destroy them, right? It's like knowing how their wounds work almost.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I would think of it. I don't think
So
they.
you've got a pretty solid understanding of these rat folk, having battled them quite a bit here. As you stab into and effectively pierce through its vital organs in these attacks, how do you kill this rat who's like climbed on top of you and is trying to like gnaw into you? How do you kill this rat?
I think like at first, like the first type would be as like trying to slash at it. Then the killing blow would be like trying to put the scimitar like. Scimitars have a point, right? Not remembering that too badly.
Yeah, like on many levels, these two attacks are both the attacks from the scimitar. It doesn't change the fact that there is a level of, I think you could have still had your bonus action. But yeah, the scimitars, all swords have points. They're not like fully meant for piercing, but you could.
Yeah, because then I would just like imagine like the first slash, yeah, and then like just slashing through at the body, and then the second attack like when it's like on the inside, body just pushing the tip like up to the head. Just-
Gotcha. So like you slash it open and then like not even necessarily drawing the blade back, you like pierce it through up through this opening in its gut and like up through its jaw and into the head of the creature where it just goes limp and you just kind of let gravity like pull the body off. Are you taking any movement before the end of your turn?
Yeah, I'm gonna move some next to the big guy.
Gotcha. But otherwise, stopping at that edge in the courtyard, still outside, it is going to go to Dalton.
Yeah, so Dalton kind of having just dodged that the thing's big, massive blade as it kind of just scraping the ceiling. He's like looking towards this giant rat thing, and he's going to put his hand out and just like almost like in a commanding voice, kind of drop it, followed by some more arcane sounding words. But he's going to cast heat metal on the sword that the big rat thing is holding. And I assume that was a metal sword. If it was looked like something else, obviously it would cast something else. But
Oh, you're fine.
so it would be 8 fire damage, and it would succeed on a Constitution saving throw, DC 15. If it fails, it drops the sword. And can I actually use my inspiration to give it disadvantage on that?
Looks like it's going to drop it there.
All right. And he is. I imagine this thing is kind of is big enough. It's blocking. Like he couldn't try to sidle past it towards Malchin. So he's. Yeah, I think he's
Large
gonna.
creature, you can. It's disadvantage, but you can.
Um. Yeah, I think he's gonna try to kind of, as he sees it drop the blade, he's gonna try and force his way through out towards Malchin.
Roll a Arcana check.
That would be an 11.
As you step like under its leg and go to like step like out of the door, you just kind of get repelled, and for a moment you think like, did it just like swing an arm at me? But you can't make it outside.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, he probably, as far as he knows, yeah, it was just like, this creature size blocking his way. So he is, I think, just going to stay there then. And that is all for him.
It is going to try to swing for Dalton one more time here. It has to drop the glowing sword, but don't see why it wouldn't pick it back up. It is going to pick the sword up and swing it at you. Gonna let it hit. It is going to hit you for 20 more slashing damage.
Oh, I think it's going to have disadvantage on that, the attack. I'm sorry, I'm just reading.
15 to hit you.
Yep, that'll hit AC.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it did have disadvantage regardless because Justin cutting word it with Jinx.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I feel like when it drops the weapon, it no longer has the disadvantage. I think it
Well,
was if it maintained the weapon, it would have had to.
but this, I think that's because it's still hot, right? So this is a concentration spell. So the
Yeah, it
blade
says if it
still.
doesn't drop the object, it has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the start of your next turn. So I think it would fit to say that when it picks it back up, it has disadvantage with attacks with it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I
But I
think
think
of it,
it's
'cause
only for the turns that you heat it. Like if you don't use your bonus action to heat it, it's not going to be hot at that point. Um, and
that makes
then
sense.
it's going to try to bite into you again. Are you still standing after taking another 20?
Just barely.
It is going to hit you with the bite.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a whatchamacallit on this one.
What are you going to do here? Like
Silvery
cutting
barb.
words?
Silvery barb.
Okay, silvery barbs.
Sorry, I kept wanting to say cutting words, and I'm like, that's not the right one.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that one is going to fail. I think an 11 is not enough for it to strike him. And who's going to gain advantage here?
I'll give advantage to Malchin, and I'll just say, strike him in the sweet spot.
Gotcha. It is going to go to Jinx then.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be like a little extra, like kind of flamboyant with my movements here, as I'm trying to like gain his attention, so Malchin can kind of like get him from the backside.
Okay. And it's the concentration check. It's half the damage, right? Or 10
Oh
with
yeah, my
advantage.
bad. Yeah, it's still a DC 10 with 20 damage.
Okay, so I passed that. That was that 12 there. I forgot to roll before.
What did you just do, Jinx?
So I'm just going to. I'm just gonna yell over at that other rat, over there, and say, "I thought you were dead already." And I'm gonna do vicious mockery to him, for wisdom 15.
You don't even have to roll for damage because it has 1 hit point left. It is going to die.
I thought so. And then I'm gonna look over at Dalton again. And is he bloody again?
He is barely clinging to life. Or consciousness, I should say.
I'm just gonna say, "Ah, damn it, man, you look terrible. I don't know what you said to that rat, but it hates you." And then I'm gonna, I'll heal you again so you don't get auto killed.
That is a distinct possibility. So thank you.
And you would also sense, like, as Bane drops when that creature dies, like, you don't have to hold concentration on Bane anymore.
And that's 10 points for Dalton.
And then theoretically, that should take us to Malchin.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take all my attacks on the big guy. So let's see. And I had advantage from silvery barbs, right? Like the first attack.
First attack, yep.
So that is 24 to hit.
Solid hit. It is wounded, so you can use your Colossus or whatever the other one is. Monster Hunter?
Colossus Slayer. Let's see. 7. 7. So 14 total damage from first attack. Oh, accidentally rolled 2. That should have been a 3, so that's 10 to hit.
The 10 will miss. It's kind of getting lost into the matted fur and all of like the rotten flesh and like garbage that's kind of like heaped into this creature's fur.
Yeah, then let's see. Bonus action. Short sword. See if that hits. 19 to hit.
Solid hit with that.
For another 9 damage.
So solid amount of strikes from Malchin from outside. It's going to leave the creature bloodied at this point. Does Malchin move inside or do you remain outside?
I'll remain where I am.
Ooh. What is it? You missed with a 10 with your middle attack, with your second.
Yeah.
Remember that I am giving you guys a +2 flanking option. A 12 cuts into its armor, but you are just at the point of missing. This thing effectively has 13 AC. You are just below with a 12. But remember, I give you guys that like different flanking style of like the +2 for flanking. But yeah, that can take it to Dalton.
All right. So Dalton. Oh, go ahead.
It is holding the sword again, so if you bonus action, you can heat metal again on this.
Yep, that was my first first plan. So it would be for another 8 fire damage, and then kind of looking still bloodied, but no longer quite at death's door after Jinx's healing. He will try to stab out at this thing with his rapier, with his action. That should hit with a 24 6 damage.
Just enough as you cut through him with your rapier. You kind of like pierce through a little bit of its like fur and flesh as you stab in. You kind of feel this like prick of a little bit of bone and kind of like slide in past it, like past that little bit of like the bone armoring around. Maybe you're like piercing through its chest and the sternum, and just that little bit of a pop, the blade kind of springs forward, and this thing in an instant just kind of goes stiff, kind of like wavers for a few moments, and then it falls over unconscious and bleeding out in front of the two of you. Maybe the type of thing where you move a little bit out of the way from like the falling head, but all in all, this massive creature falls dead at your feet.
I'll kick him.
So let's see. I think Jinx was the only person who never actually got struck by an attack, right?
Yes, I did escape unscathed on that one.
Malchin, did I only hit you with the explosives?
Yeah.
I feel like I hit you with the sword with the one that leapt down that first turn.
Oh, right. Yeah, you did. Hit with
Yeah,
the sword,
okay.
missed with the
So
butt.
the sword would be the potential for it. If I can have Dalton and Malchin, please roll a Constitution saving throw, please.
I think I took a couple sword blows. So do you need multiples or
Yeah,
just one?
it doesn't get any worse. Nope.
Okay.
So 13 from Malshin.
And same 13 for Dalton.
Excellent.
Dalton is like kind of reeling back a little bit after that fight as he kind of withdraws his rapier and breathing heavily and still looking wounded, but he's like looking towards Jinx, like kick him again. Like this thing almost killed him a couple of times. And Melton, you good out there? I don't.
Yeah, I'm good. Nothing I couldn't handle out here. How about you guys? You fine in there?
Well, alive at least. And I assume this thing is probably kind of blocking, or at least somewhat blocking the entryway, and it probably weighs a ton. But Dalton's going to try to sort of shove it as try to make a little bit of opening because he wants to get back out, or at least be able to kind of touch base with Melchin here.
Gotcha. Yeah, as you kind of like crawl and push over it to try to make your way towards that door and like make some space for yourself to move forward, you can't make it outside. There's an opening, and you can see plenty of space to move through it, but you physically cannot push your way outside.
Jinx, we might have a problem. I can't. There's seems to be something keeping us in. Uh, uh, he's gonna call to Malchin. Malchin, can you? First, he's like essentially, can you hear me? Like he wants to know if this is just a physical barrier or if it's like blocking sound as well. So he's gonna try to call out to Malchin.
With like a little bit more of like kind of a studied moment, there's definitely a instance of like you yell out to him, Malchin. You definitely hear him, but you also hear more whispers like around the courtyard. Like as he calls out, it's like there's a group of voices that are like singing out at the same time. Like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, that's creepy. Ah, yeah, I can hear you. And some other things.
Uh, I don't seem to be able to get back out. And he's gonna try to essentially like kind of put his hand and try to like push it through just to like show Malchin what he means.
I think Malshin, like seeing that, is gonna try. Oh, maybe I can. Maybe it's one way only. And he's like trying to put his hand like through same place where Dalton was pushing.
You can reach through.
Ah, seems like I can get to you at least. You want me to go in or you want me outside?
Seeing what's going on with them, um, do I have any idea what the heck is actually like happening here?
Roll an Arcana check.
I'm like lighting a cigarette, trying to figure out what's going on. Natural 20.
you like exhale a little bit of your smoke like out towards where like the door should be, and you like watch as the smoke like hits this little verge where Dalton can't reach through, and the smoke starts to like ascend as if there's something blocking this wall. It doesn't take you long to basically like take this theory of there's some sort of magical force blocking this way out, to basically like show the actual force that is blocking this wall. And yeah, it seems that movement from this side is blocked. Movement from Malchin's perspective, not so much.
To be selfish, Malchin, be feel more comfortable with your blade at the ready, but we come in here, don't know how we're going to find our way back out again. Perhaps it's only this door.
Seems rather strange. A sort of one-way force barrier, and it's like the actual front area, not the dead rat necessarily.
Yeah, like Dead Rat moved out of the way, you're still coming up on this problem of there's some sort of barrier at that front.
I'll give it a search while Malchin decides what his fate will be. And I know he's like gigantic, but is he also like more humanoid um than like some of the other ones I know we have seen were like giant actual rats? Is this one more like of like a human slash giant rat?
I think that's more just kind of like a varying level of all of these rats that you guys have fought. Um, I don't think any of you maybe have like the medicine slash like natural world or kind of like the specialties that might really give you that sort of information, versus just saying like overall. I think you guys are definitely recognizing that there are varying levels of like rat and humanness. And these things display them. It's not just like an instant of this thing's half rat and half human, and this one's like all rat. There's like levels of these creatures. So yeah, I think overall, just roll a perception for me. And are you like hoping to see that this thing is more rat, or are you hoping to see that this thing is like more human?
No, I'm good with like either way. I was just kind of curious, like on a personal level, like as I was like picturing this thing, because I kind of figure if it's carrying a weapon, I kind of picture it being like more humanoid. But yeah, really, I'm just like gonna search it, and then if you guys don't judge me, I'll probably cut off all the rat tails that I can get to try to collect that one gold bounty.
Yeah, like most of what you guys have fought has been a lot of these actual humanoid rats. They're definitely the ones that you guys see artifacts on, like artifacts of culture. Many of these things are wearing clothing. They are wearing and using weapons. Like the sword that this thing carries, it doesn't have to be like an actual sword so much as just like a massive like chunk of metal that was maybe like the door hinge of a like jail cell, and it's just like three spikes from the steel bars cut off, and it swings them like a piercing blade. You know what I mean? Like these things aren't necessarily cultured, but they're definitely more than just rats.
So, is there any way that I'm able to deduce from our so far experiences? Like, is there anything that I can use to like differentiate when casting spells whether or not something's going to have a chance to be affected?
I almost want to put that on some level to research, but at present, do a medicine for me. I feel like that's really the type of thing where like start to resource your research into your magic, and we can like have you learning more and more about those resistances, because that's almost like the type of thing like a monk or even a fighter could start to learn, and you two working together could like turn that into your thing. But yeah, I think as you're kind of like picking through these things, and like harvesting the two tails that you kind of have here, the monstrous creature might be a little bit big to actually carry that tail. That might be like a 10-pound tail, but you also might get 10 gold for it too. Um, but like I think the tails that you could get from them, seeing what you can see from them, like, are they really humanoid in more than just that they have like human kind of characteristics? Like, I think this is where you might recognize that these things are a little bit more animalistic than humanoid. And while that might lead you towards wondering if they are beasts as far as magic goes, I would say it also doesn't necessarily tell you whether they are beasts or monstrosities. Um, but I think even with a kind of failed roll of a 3, you can kind of see like these things are not necessarily human or not enough human. They're not fully participating in like being a humanoid.
Oh yeah, appreciate it.
But I will point out, I think on some level, like historically, like some of the ratlings that I use and some of the rat creatures that I use are more humanoid than like these things. And that's one of the things, especially with the rats in this campaign. There is like multiple levels of some of these rats are definitely more human than others. And I think in particular, it just varies what I'm grabbing at any given time. So Dalton and Malchin, what are the two of you doing as Jinx is kind of investigating the monstrous one, cutting off its tail, going over to the little one on the stairs, cutting off his tail? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, I guess. Excuse me. Dalton is. Yeah, kind of licking his wounds. Aside, so, um, yeah, I guess he's going to try to kind of squeeze past this big rat into the to get a look into the room behind it where these things came from. Just take a look in there. Or just like a
Gotcha.
visual kind of check to start.
I think you can pretty much see it's a pretty well empty room from what you can see here. There is a door into the actual turret, the western tower of this overall building. But that door itself is currently shut, blocking your view of what is inside of that turret. But other than that, this is essentially an empty room there. And what is Malchin doing?
Ashen has been debating if he's going in or not, but yeah, fuck it. He's going in. Better if we stick together.
So as Malchin steps through the door, the others are not necessarily paying attention to him. You all are going to hear within, as it's almost as if the walls themselves kind of like creak and moan, and like just enough of your attention's kind of drawn away from what you're doing as you kind of like look around. You are going to hear Bayed. Um, I know it's here. Why can't I see it? As Malchin, you step through the door, you are going to hear, "Come to me."